Now, I didn't watch the interview because I refuse to get that man that's obsessed with Andy Cohen and everything Bravo, everything Housewives, a view. But I got the cliff notes, so if y'all want to go ahead and talk about it, we can.
Let's talk about it.
Shawty, come and swing my way. We ain't gotta waste no time now, baby. Put that in my face. I just wanna bump and grind on you. On you. Want you on my face, so shawty, come and swing my way.
I want people to have fun. Let's kick back. Let's get into a little tea. Let's not get too crazy, but let's enjoy the sip.
What's up, y'all? So some of y'all know me from doing story times, some of y'all know me from my commentary, and others of y'all know me from my spiritual tarot readings. Now, nonetheless, I have a Patreon that I want y'all to go check out because every video that I upload to YouTube is automatically flagged by the algorithm. Not to mention the fact that I'm black and LGBT, but that's a commentary video for another day, child. Okay? So over on patreon.com/ScottSantana, I want to be able to offer y'all early uploads, extended versions of videos, story times, both old and new, as well as exclusive content. Because best believe that there is a lot of tea I be wanting to get into, but I would like to keep my channel. Okay? And I'm going to leave it at that. So do me a favor and go sub to my Patreon. Now, also, for those that don't know, I am psychic. I'm an intuitive healer, a light worker, as some would call it. Baby, I'm gifted, okay? I used to run a channel called Alana Souls for a few years where I would put out intuitive messages, predictions, zodiac readings, but now I'm starting to transfer all of that content over to this channel and merge those entertainment and spiritual worlds. So I did want to inform y'all that I do offer personal alignment readings featuring tarot, astrology, and other divination tools. And, once in a blue, y'all can catch me on live. We could get a quick reading done as well. Now, if you're stressed out, confused in your life direction, unsure about your love life, career, money, going through your Saturn return, even if you got a fake friend of you, I can help you. I consider my alignment sessions to be spiritual therapy. Let's break you down to help build you back up. Okay, let's figure out who you are and where you come from to understand where it is that you're going. How many times in life do we get to a certain age or past a certain obstacle and wish that we would have known XYZ ahead of time? Well, now you can. So if y'all don't go book a reading with me on my website, thealignedSouls.com, and allow me to whip that butt back into shape and align you back to your highest good and highest soul, baby. I love you all for real now. And HC Boo.
But let's get to the chi-chi, the kiki, the internet bull.
What's going on, y'all? It's Scott Santana, aka Chi-Chi, and we are back for another motherfucker. Let's talk about it. So, girl, let's talk about it, okay? Now, today, we need to speak about Kenya Moore, who, for the life of me, I don't understand why, but she sat down, did an interview with Carlos King. Again, like I said in the intro, I refuse to get that man any more views because he needs to go over there to the OWN network, aka the what do they call it? Press Women's Network, and fix up some of his shows, right? He got Love and Marriage Huntsville, he got Love and Marriage DC, Detroit. Okay, Detroit, from what I've heard, is pitiful. Okay, DC has been on hiatus forever. Okay, you got Bell Collective that just went on its mid-season hiatus. And the next 15 ain't never coming back. And what was the last one? BET presents the Encore. We ain't never getting a season 2 of that. Okay, so instead of going over there fixing up what's wrong with all of those shows, Carlos King decides that he wants to just go on this whole Bravo campaign, this world tour of interviewing all the housewives. And I feel like we might as well just prepare to just be dealing with this shit for the next couple of months because we just had the viral interview that he did with Nene not even a month ago, not even 2 weeks ago, and already he sat down with Kenya. So it's like, who gonna be next? We know it ain't gonna be Candy because listen, him and Candy don't like each other, but like who gonna be next? Is it gonna be Sheree? Is it gonna be Kim? Like, who is it going to be next? So like I said, if y'all want to go and watch that video, y'all can. Yeah, we just going to go over the cliff notes. Okay. So Kenya basically came on the show in season 5. And I've said it before. I feel like Real Housewives of Atlanta was that girl. But by the time season 5 came around and Kenya and Portia came into the play, and this is before Kenya spoke up, because for I guess this is the first time that we're hearing anything about this, so I'm just going based off of my assumptions and how I always felt. But I always felt like at season 5, it was that halfway turning point. Like, people love to be like, "Oh, Real Housewives of Atlanta when it's in its glory days and da 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 da." But y'all not talking about season 1, 2, 3, or 4. Y'all not. Y'all are talking about 5 and beyond. And really, when y'all say glory days, y'all really mean between 5 and 9. Okay, if not 5, 6, 7. That's when Real Housewives of Atlanta was quote unquote popping. I feel like season 5 it became a whole different show, especially once they casted Kenya and Portia. But it was needed. Okay, I said this in the video earlier on the other Housewives video that I did. I feel like every 6 to 7 years, these shows all need to switch it up. They need to take the Degrassi approach and try something different, add new people, switch up the formula, like, because it gets stale after a while. Even Degrassi had to go from being Degrassi to the next generation. And so once Kenya and Portia came into the play in season 5, I assumed and thought that by season 10 that they was going to do that again, because it worked so well. Like, literally, season 4 and season 5 is 2 different shows, completely 2 different shows. Once they got rid of Kim and brought Kenya and Portia on, it was 2 completely different shows. They was both a breath of fresh air. And Atlanta Housewives honestly would not be where it is today if it were not for, of course, I mean, Nene played a part, but Kenya and Portia really took the show in a different direction. Okay. And Nene had a mouthful to say about Kenya and Candy and the rest of the girls. And now Kenya is having her sit down with Carlos and she's giving her take on things. So let's go ahead and get into it. Like I said, this is going to be the Cliff Notes. So don't expect this to be like real long and detailed, because bitch, I ain't watch it. Okay. I'm just going based off of what somebody else wrote. They notes. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into it. So this comes from Jay's reality blog. It's a few housewives blogs and a few reality show blogs that we all kind of like follow and all kind of like look to, because they be posting like the sneak peeks and shit like that every week. Yeah. And so this is a trustworthy blog that we all, kind of look to. So these are the notes from part 1 of Kenya's interview, I guess, following in true fashion of Carlos King and how he does his interviews, like how he did last week. This is going to be part 1. Then I'm sure that we're going to get a part 1.5 that nobody asked for, probably by tomorrow, where he's going to say Carlos King addresses the Kenya Moore interview as if anybody asked. And then I'm sure next week we will probably get part 2, and then we'll get a 2.5, okay? Before, 2 weeks from now, we'll be having Kim or Sonia or Sheree. Okay. But as far as this, it says, Kenya says that colorism is not made up, it's reality. Okay. Kenya says that she confirmed that some of the ladies went on strike during season 5 filming because they didn't like how Kim was getting preferential treatment. Okay. Because when Kim walked off the show, casting opened back up and Portia was casted. Then they called Kenya to film with Portia. So she's explaining that Portia was actually casted first, and then she was casted, which I didn't know. I mean, listen, these housewife shows, they work differently. Sometimes going into the season, like, you already have a housewife that is casted going into the season. And then sometimes we see the girls audition it, and then it's like, okay, what's going to happen by the end of the season? You know what I mean? Like, for Sonya was already casted as a housewife, and it could be largely because of her already having her own show that maybe the producers had that much faith in her. But I remember for season 14, going into it, we already knew she was a housewife. And when I say going into it, I mean going into filming. Like, by filming, she already knew. Whereas most times it's like they'll have these girls around, and then, we'll see them throughout the season, and then they'll kind of like make their decision afterwards or after something big happens, right? Like, Nene had admitted that, like, the producers really started focusing on her after Sheree had left her off of the guest list, and then that's when they kind of like took a liking to her personality, because that's when she really like became the Nene Leakes that people used to love and know. And so, kind of the same thing, I guess, happened with Kenya, which I would not have assumed. I would have assumed that Kenya was casted right from the beginning, especially, with her pageant background. I would have thought that if anything, she was casted before Portia, and then, but according to Kenya, Portia was casted first, and then Kenya was casted. Kenya says that she was officially made a housewife after Nene's Woman in Success event. Now, my memory is shot. I don't remember all the way back then. I really don't. I don't. I would like to say that the woman in success of it might have been when she was like, it's a wonder how many good friends I have and don't know about it. I would like to say that that's what that is, but don't give me the fucking lying. I don't know and I don't care to Google it. Okay. But apparently that's when Kenya was officially named a housewife. So I would assume that it was a scene where she probably was vocal, where she probably spoke up for herself, where she probably like let it be known, like, hey, I'm here. And the producers was like, okay, that's a star. Like, that's not just somebody who's pretty, who's just going to come in and just, collect a check like candy, but that's somebody who's going to come and show up to work. Now, Kenya says that she filmed for about a month straight without being an official housewife and without pay, which says a lot because the housewives schedule is typically about 6 months, right? It's 6 months on, 6 months off, and then obviously in between time they got the recording of the confessionals that they got to do. Then we have the reunion, then you got the airing of the show and all of that. Like, but it's typically 6 months on, 6 months off. So you already done took 1/6 of that time to basically work for free. Yeah, I would be pissed too. I would be pissed too, especially back then, because we're not talking about season 16, child. We're talking about season 5 when reality TV was kind of just getting started up and they wasn't making the big bucks like that. Honestly, I don't think they started really making the big bucks until at least 6 or 7. So it wasn't like they was getting like $1 million paychecks, and especially not being new. Kenya didn't come in the gate getting $1 million. No, she probably came in and was probably getting $1,000 an episode because that's what Latoya was getting. Well, technically, she said that she was working for free, but even with her fighting, I can't imagine that it would have been much once she actually did get casted because Latoya on season 14, what season we on? 15? On season 13, Latoya was making 1,000 an episode, and I was just as a friend. So that's interesting to know. But Kenya told them that she wasn't going to work for free and that she had shown enough. And they backed to the film one more scene. And she told them, if I shoot this scene and you don't make me a housewife, then y'all cannot use me for anything else. Then that's when production ended up making her a housewife. Kenya wasn't necessarily in a good place when season 5 was airing. She had to speak to a therapist. She considered not returning to the show. But of course, Carlos backed her to come back and told her that he couldn't do season 6 without her. How many times have we heard that? And I mean, it's not that it can't be true, but like that's exactly why I avoided watching an interview for myself because Carlos has this thing that he does that's very much like Jason Lee. Like he's basically like the black Jason Lee to me, right? Because Jason Lee has this thing of I did this, I did that. And matter of fact, Nene does as well. They all do. It's always about like what they've done or done for somebody else just to like let you know. Like it's like very like braggadocious, very because I don't like people who necessarily like name drop all the time, right? Like it's just like you have to insert yourself in the middle of a situation just to let people know that you were there. And it's like, Carlos, we understand that you were once production for Housewives over on Bravo. We all know this by this point. You don't have to remind us every single second, but every single second, that's what he's doing. It's like, hey, remember that time when I pulled you aside and I saw that your shoe was untied and I said, girl, you better tie your shoe before you fall. It's like, Carlos, we did not need to fucking know that. We didn't need to know that. We didn't need to know that. And that's why I avoided the interview because I'm just like, I don't want to hear that every 2 seconds. But of course, Carlos put Kenya inside and said, girl, I need you. We can't do a season 6 without you. He said the same shit about Nene. He also said the same shit about Sheree and Cam. It's like, that's just his MO. And again, I wonder if he does that in the moment just to come back later and be like, see, yeah, I told you. And if it wasn't for me, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's weird. But continuing on, EP told Kenya that her and Portia revived the show because it was in a bad place before they joined. So I don't know if the EP is Carlos or if that is the executive production. Well, I mean, EP stands for executive producer, but I don't know if that's Carlos that told her that or if it was just the production period that told Kenya that. But it goes along with what I was saying. Like, that's what I assumed. That's what I saw. Housewives of Atlanta was not that girl. It really was not that girl until after Kenya and Portia came on, and that's when everybody was like, oh shit, Housewives. Like, yeah, Nene got it a little bit of attention. Yeah, Nene was on Celebrity Apprentice. Yeah, it was like, okay, this is cute. But wasn't nobody checking for Housewives until Nene really had somebody to go back and forth with, because up until that point, all of Nene's hilarious moments and shit was really more so of like fun shade against her and Kim. But then when you had Kenya come in, that's when the dynamic shifted and Housewives suddenly became like instead of the whole cast focusing on one person and just focusing on Nene, it's like, okay, now we have the team dynamic. We have the hero versus the anti-hero, the villain. You know what I mean? And it was like Nene was the good guy and Kenya, whoever was on Kenya's side was the bad guy, right? Then at that time, you also had the fallout between Nene and Cynthia. You had Cynthia versus Portia. You had Portia versus Kenya. Like, it was a lot that was going on that changed the dynamics of the show for the better, and that helped this show get a lot of attention. So that's why when Nene says, "Yeah, I built this house," it's like, okay, but everybody else helped maintain it. Like, you might have bought the plot of land, you might have started the foundation or helped gather the materials for the foundation, but everybody kept this shit afloat. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's four walls within a home. No matter what level you're on, there's four corners at least. Like, it takes multiple people to hold that shit up. Okay. But moving it on, Kenya actually mentioned Nene, and she said that Nene was her number one challenger out of all the other feuds she had on the show. And of course, Nene was number one. I would say Portia was probably number two. I wouldn't mention Phaedra, but Phaedra's an easy read, and Phaedra, like, she rehearsed her read, so it's not the same. But yes, of course, Nene was her number one challenge because, again, Nene was the hero and Kenya was the villain. And so it was like, it was an equal match. They were equally yoked. And that is what popped Housewives off. Okay. Kenya also said that she missed Nene being on the show. I have no comment. I feel like, why are you up here lying? Okay. Kenya also says that Nene may have built the house, but it got foreclosed on. Okay. In response to Nene saying that she built Real Housewives of Atlanta. And I don't know if y'all caught Cynthia, but Cynthia had actually said on Speak on it. She said something like, to the effect of like, okay, well, Nene, if you built this house, then go build another. And honestly, I feel like that's how a lot of us are feeling. Like, baby, you built the house, but it got foreclosed on. So why not go build another? It's that simple. She says also that Giselle Bryant is that girl. Kenya called a producer and actually asked why Giselle wasn't in the middle of Real Housewives of Potomac. I'm not gonna hold you. I don't like that idea. I don't like that idea. I thought I was about to say I do, but I don't. Candace should be in the middle. Candace should be in the middle. Argue with your mama, argue with your daddy. Candace should be in the middle. Again, I feel like the whole anti-villain hero, that whole, it got to be two and then opposing sides, all of that started with Nene and Kenya. And even though on Potomac, Giselle and Karen may have been the ones to get that going on that show, and they may be the faces of the show, I feel like the actual ones that get the show going is Ashley and Candace. Okay, so I feel like if there was going to be a Nene versus Kenya, it would be Ashley and Candace. I feel like Giselle and Karen are simply the faces of Potomac, but I don't necessarily feel like they deserve first share. I don't necessarily feel like they deserve all that they're given, especially not the Grand Dame. I don't. I know. I will give Giselle points for being, producer's pet and, being a ghost producer in the background, getting the storyline going, but like, that's about it. The face of the show, sure, but the ones that drive the actual storylines, Ashley and Candace. Now, Kenya also said that she had an issue with her reunion seat in season 14. She spoke to producers and said, you would have never moved Nene's seat, and says that she always had a great story, but not so much in season 15. I mean, okay, we all had a problem with the seating chart last year. This season, not as much because Drew definitely deserved first share. But as far as Sheree, absolutely the fuck not. Now, Kenya was also denied a spinoff regarding her in Brooklyn. She wanted to do a spinoff show where basically she took Brooklyn around the world, and it would be like a cute play on locations and also their names within the title. So it would be like a Kenya and Brooklyn take Paris type of thing. Don't nobody want to watch that shit. I'm sorry, Kenya. Nobody want to watch that shit. So, because you also got to consider the demographic. It's like, are we really going to be checking for a show with a little toddler running around? Like, absolutely not. Now, maybe if it was a family show and it was on some Don't Be Tardy for the Party, and then we watching, grown teenagers or like husband and a wife raise, their kids or whatever, it might be a little bit different, but don't nobody want to see Kenya take her child around the world to different places. It's just not interesting. It's just not good TV. Now, Kenya lastly confirmed that she was punished for marrying Mark off camera. She was very protective of her relationship, and she did not tell anyone. I remember when that happened, and I wasn't mad at Kenya for that. Because I mean, everybody kind of feels like once you go on reality TV, it kind of fucks up your relationship. And considering how bad she wanted a relationship, and y'all also got to remember too, because I know y'all love to rewrite history, but y'all had been saying for years that Kenya's relationship with Walter was fake and that she was renting him and paying him. And so everything surrounding how she got with Mark was already awkward because Kenya was so codependent that she was just like in love with him from like day one, and they got married like super quick. It was doomed to like fail from the start. And so I don't think that her broadcasting that on reality TV would have necessarily been the best thing for her. I don't. I don't. And I mean, she got punished, and it is what it is. Because I mean, if you want to show your reality, and then you choose not to, and you want to hide shit from the producers, whatever. I mean, it is what the fuck it is. It is what it is. That's the choice that she made. But the great thing about it is that Kenya took it in stride. Okay, she was told she had to sit out for a season. She came back, continued to do her job, continued to clock in, and she's still here. We can't say the same thing about Nene. Nene wanted to go in and do whatever the fuck she wanted to do. When she got that ass handed to her, she thought that she was too popular and too rich for the goddamn show, and that the show needed her more than she needed the show. And now look at where Nene is. Homeless. Meanwhile, Kenya is quite comfortable. Okay, too comfortable. Again, if you ask me, she need to go. But she's quite comfortable, cozy inside of this house. So, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. But according to this page, that's all that happened within the interview. Again, I didn't watch it, so I don't know. Let me see. We could go through the comments real quick, see if anybody mentioned anything else. Kenya and Giselle need to do the ultimate girls trip together. I need to see them fall out. Kenya liking Giselle makes a lot of sense. They're both really miserable. Okay, well, Portia also likes Giselle. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Enjoy this interview. I'm ready to admit that as cringy as Auntie Carlos is when he over concerns himself with Bravo, okay, as opposed to Owns, he gets the girls to talk and they have a good conversation. I would love to see Candy on there, but something tells me that's a no. Candy said she don't fuck with Carlos, so probably not. He said he's asked her to come multiple times. That's a lie. Her saying Giselle is that girl tracks so much for someone as boring and ego inflated as much as Kenya. 2 P's. And she called up a producer to ask about the placement in her intro. All the I'm too busy, I'm above you attitude stops now because that's okay. Okay. A lot of things to take away from this interview. Can you confirm what Nene said about the mistreatment of the cast and how it's been out? She didn't say mistreatment. Oh, I don't know. Maybe she did say mistreatment in the interview. I don't fucking know. I don't know. But regardless, it's like, I don't understand why y'all don't understand that two things can be right. Nene can be right, but also still be a bitch. And at the end of the fucking day, if you profit off shit, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it years later. We're not going to protect black women as after you done sat and profited and collected checks until you stop collecting checks. At the end of the day, that's what it is. Whether they was treating them like slaves or not, they showed up to work every goddamn day. And we're not going to say, oh, they did it for the check. They did it to survive. There's other ways to survive. There's other ways to fucking survive, especially when you're a celebrity and you have resources. There's other ways. So I don't want to hear all the social justice movements and trying to profit off of. No, it's for selfish gain. It's for selfish gain because we didn't hear not a goddamn thing until the money started running out. And it just is what it is. But you know, for the most part, everybody's saying that it was a good interview. I mean, it is what it is. Definitely let me know what y'all thought about this down in the comment box below, as if I give a fuck. And definitely make sure that y'all go and stream my music as if you give a fuck. And I love each and every one of y'all in HD audio, boo. Oh, I gotta go. Bye-bye.
I'm trying to fuck now, so baby, let's dance. Fuck up my baby right here on my legs, man.